This will define everything for the Dallas Stars as we're early into the offseason, and it's what some players are already saying about what the future holds and looks like for this team. And welcome into Stars Digest. My name's Matthew Wagner, and as always, before we get into it, we got to talk about subscribing to Stars Digest. 94.9% of you guys aren't subscribed yet. It's completely free, and there's daily updates on the Dallas Stars. No money's going to change hands here. All you do is hit that button, right? Hit that red button to subscribe. If you want to turn on notifications, go for it. More power to you. Also, be sure to leave a like and a comment, especially the comment part, because I do read all the comments. I do try to respond to all the comments. I do like leaving you guys with a question and then letting you guys answer what you guys think the future looks like for the Dallas Stars in terms of that. So what do I mean? What does the future look like, and why are the players talking about the future? Well, the main quote that I picked out from their media availability, also Jim Nill will be talking to the Dallas media tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that, is Jake Oettinger talked about it, what his goals were for this team, what the future looks like for him. He talked about how he doesn't feel like he accomplished any of his goals. He wants to win the Stanley Cup, he wants to win the Vezina, and he wants to be the starting goaltender for the Team USA. And he said none of those things happen. We'll be seeking out Ben Bishop, former Stars goaltender, for advice. Now, I like this from Jake because it shows that he's willing to not so essentially mature, but he's looking to seek that advice to get to that next tier of elite. He's great, but not elite tier, right? He's a great goaltender, but he's not elite. He wants to get to that tier and really show that he's capable of that elite play, which we've seen in spurts, right? He's got the capability to steal games, and I think he wants to consistently steal those games, right? So, the Team USA, that's a little bit further away, right? There's another 4 years for that. Stanley Cup could happen anytime. Could happen next year. Could happen, 5 years down the road. Who knows? Vezina Trophy as well, right? He could win the Vezina next year, or he could win the Vezina at the end of his career. So there's a lot of things that could happen in terms of that. So the future of this team in terms of that championship window, right? The teams and players only have a certain window to win the Stanley Cup. Jamie Benn, of course, we've talked about him loads, is one of those exceptions, right? Where he can go play his career, only get to the Stanley Cup final once and never win it. There's hundreds of players that have made the Hall of Fame that have never won the Stanley Cup, but their individual accolades have been strong cases, right? I think that's another debate for another day. Will Jamie Benn be a Hall of Famer? But I say this because it ties into the coaching and what the championship window looks like for the Dallas Stars. So the window, talking about Glenn Gulutzan, he says the window is 2 years back and 4 years forward. You're in it. So that gets you a 6-year kind of window. And so if we're kind of in the middle of the window, kind of early, but it's kind of in the middle, Glenn, you might not be here for that. And when you're talking about, what am I talking about? Well, look at his career resume up to this point. He was the head coach from 2011 to 2013. 64, 57, 9 record in 2 seasons for the Stars. There's a foundation there, right? He built the foundation early. He was the Oilers assistant coach from 2018, 2025. But in between that, he was the assistant coach for Vancouver Canucks. Led the Oilers to help the Oilers get to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals and lost, right? So that's kind of why the Stars hired him. Peter DeBoer was threw Oettinger under the bus. That's why he was fired. And a lot of people were always saying, were the Stars right in firing Peter DeBoer? I would say yes and no. Yes, because he threw Oettinger under the bus, and he completely lost the room in terms of that. Now, if you look at the career retrospective of Peter DeBoer, he led the Stars back-to-back-to-back Western Conference Finals, did not get over the hump in any of them. He's capable of leading the team to the Stanley Cup Finals. You see that with San Jose when lost to Pittsburgh. You see that with the New Jersey Devils and losing to the Los Angeles Kings. Now he's with the New York Islanders. So I think with this season, if you're Peter DeBoer, you kind of feel vindicated, right? All they can't do with Glenn Gulutzan. Gulutzan led them to one of their fourth best season in franchise history. And you look at his career, 42, 35, 5. The lockout short in 2012-2013 season, 22, 22, and 4. That's when he was relieved of his duties. Did not make the playoffs. Didn't make the playoffs for the Stars in there for his first year of coaching either. Then he goes on to Calgary, makes the playoffs, gets swept. Then he goes on with the Calgary next year, does not make the playoffs. And then this year for the Dallas Stars, he's 54 years old, gets ousted in 6 games. So, how does this tie into to Oettinger, right? The Oettinger quote. Well, he might not be here because what I noticed the most out of the years for Glenn Gulutzan, year 1, great. Second year, regressed. Year 1, great for Calgary, makes playoffs. Second year, regressed. Year 1 for Dallas, great. So now we get to that second year. Will he regress? And if he does regress, will we see a coaching change? And if possible, will that so there's some coaches on the hot seat. I've talked about this already. Is Craig Berube, Andrew Brunette, Chris Knobloch, Spencer Carberry, Todd McClellan. So we get the Red Wings, Capitals, Oilers, Predators, and Leafs. Any one of these coaches could be fired at any given point. They could be relieved before the season starts. So if you fire Glenn Gulutzan, one of these coaches could become available. Now, Spencer Carberry, I think they'll keep him. I think Chris Knobloch stays because, again, I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, you're wasting the career of McDavid. I think he will stay. Andrew Brunette, I think, is the one that's on the hottest the most because we've seen the Predators kind of regress and they haven't really gotten to that next week. Even though they've been the champions of the offseason for the last couple of years, they haven't really been able to. Craig Berube, I think, will be most likely be fired if he doesn't match up to the vision of what the new head honchos, Matt Sundin and John Chaika, are doing over at the Leafs. Be sure to check out Leafs Digest. Shout out Leafs Digest for if you want to learn more about that. So so let's say they don't want to go after any of these coaches. All of these coaches stay, right? Let's hypothetical this. All the coaches stay with these teams. They don't fire them. So let's just say there's a coaching free agency market, right? That's the thing about NHL. Coaches are the carousel, right? They exist for only one reason: to be fired and to be fired again. So here's some free agency coaches that I noticed could be on it. There's Peter Laviolette. There's Bruce Boudreau, Gerard Gallant, Jay Woodcroft, who is currently coaching with the Ducks but could be looking for a team in transition, and David Carl, who, yes, he's a NCAA coach, college coach for University of Denver. He stated that previously he probably will not jump ship to the NHL, but you never know. I think the right amount of money and the allure of winning that Stanley Cup as a coach could propel him to jump ship to the NHL. And I think that him being in the star system could be very beneficial to the younger group. Obviously, the older group might not agree with that, but you could see him using that forechecking strategy that I'm seeing that he's well known for. Forcing the turnover, getting the puck on net, scoring the goal. Personally, I would love to see Peter Laviolette in the star system. I originally was going to go with, if he wasn't hired by the Vegas Golden Knights, I was going to go with John Tortorella because I was going to say someone needs to light a fire under these guys. That was kind of my big thing there. And you're looking at these list of guys that you could bring in. I think Peter Laviolette has the most pedigree, right? Because he did former Stanley Cup winner. Just has that mentality. He's kind of like DeBoer, right? Where he's got that offensive mentality, and he's good at screaming. Is what I've noticed in some of his post game, behind the scenes videos that I've seen. He's really good at motivating his guys, So I'll leave you with this: is Glenn Gulutzan A, on the hot seat? B, if they do fire him, what coach would you like to see the Dallas Stars bring in? And that is all for Stars Digest. We'll speak to you at a different time. Be on the lookout as the draft lottery is right around the corner. And be on the lookout for the Jim Nill video here coming up that we will talk about what he said about the media, about Jamie Benn possibly coming back. And we'll go out from there. But as always, that is all here. We will see you next time. As always, go Stars.